Okay, what a way to start week 14 with a last-second field goal by the Lions in this massive matchup against the Packers. With the win, Detroit clinches a playoff spot, so congratulations to them. We know they've got much bigger fish to fry, but they have officially punched their ticket with this win over Green Bay. They sweep the season series against the Packers and remain in the driver's seat in the NFC North. This is First and Pod. I'm Andrew Fillipponi, joined by three-time All-Pro Patrick Peterson. Our producer is the incredible Spencer Ray. Remember, the best way to do this is to subscribe. That keeps us in business. That keeps this podcast on the air. That's right, Pat. You can listen, which is cool, but it's much better if you subscribe and then rate and review and get the word out that we're here after every Thursday night game and after Sunday night football every week. It's been a lot of fun so far this season, Pat. This game came down to, I think, was not as big as the NFC Championship game, but from is this guy on drugs decision, the ballsiest call of Dan Campbell's career. I think 31 other coaches would have kicked a field goal on 4th and inches to go up 3 and said Green Bay's not going to come down and kick a field goal to tie us with only 30 seconds left and no timeouts. It's not worth the risk. He rolled the dice. It worked. It worked 4 out of 5 times for them in this game. And Jordan Love never got the ball back after he cooked in the second half. And the Lions hung on to win this game 34-31. Not going to lie to you. This is a second guess on my part because in the moment I wanted him to kick. So I would have done that. He was right. I was wrong, as it turned out. But I think what it did, Pat, was in this hunt by the Lions to exercise the demons from last year's championship game and get that monkey off their back to win a game like this where they kept going for it on 4th down, and it ultimately won them the game instead of losing them the game like in last year's NFC Championship. I would say probably for the morale and confidence of this team, does great things.
100%. And it just goes to show Dan Campbell is going to do Dan Campbell things. It doesn't matter what happened last year, what's going on this year. He is going to make those risky calls, those gutsy 4th down calls time and time again, because the first 4th down, the fourth down that they did not convert, which is when they was backed up on their own 30, it was 4th and a long one. And they ran the ball when Green Bay defensive line pretty much was controlling the offensive line the entire game. They made it very, very difficult for the Detroit Lions.
I didn't like that call. I wanted them to put the ball in Jared Goff's hands, and he had made big plays on 4th down the entire game. So I didn't get them pitching the ball in that spot, and especially when you're backed up in your own end like that, Pat.
Right, and that was my point with the Green Bay defensive line playing as stout as they was and throughout that game. I would have put the ball in Jared Goff's hands because up until that point, no, actually not up until that point. It was up until that point. He converted 2 4th down conversions in the red zone for touchdowns.
Yep.
So I thought they would pretty much get in the shotgun.
Gibbs and Patrick.
Exactly. Like you said, get in the shotgun, kind of put the ball in Jared Goff's hands, but they did not. They decided to run. And I thought that was going to probably cost them the game, and it did not. And here we go again, 4th and inches with 43 seconds left on the clock. Like you said, 31 other head coaches would have kicked the field goal to go up 3. Jordan Love don't have any timeouts, but not Dan Campbell.
And the play wasn't really executed that well because Goff
it was not
stepped on. And if that's the college game, the play's dead because his knee was down.
Exactly. So Dan Campbell is not living in the past. He's going to continue to make those risky calls, and it paid out for him. And what it's doing is continue to give this team confidence throughout the rest of the season, because we see Dan Campbell is going to make these calls. So he's giving his team confidence and putting them on notice that I'm not changing, and we're going to continue to make these 4th down calls.
I do like the consistency of it.
Exactly. He's very consistent with it, and I think his team understands that and knows that now. It's not even the guy's not even looking to the sideline or jogging off to the side to the bench anymore. These guys are looking forward to going forward on 4th down.
One more thing on Detroit, and then I'll tell you what I thought about Green Bay in this game. The only negative I'm going to say about Detroit is I honestly felt in the second half of the game This was the first time all year since he got injured in Green Bay that I thought they missed Aiden Hutchinson. Now, they still got the pressures were there. Love made that incredible play to Watson down the left side where he was pressured and basically pulled a Houdini in almost a Patrick Mahomes-looking play. That was just really one of his best plays I've ever seen him make. But they didn't get home. The pressure was there. They didn't finish it. And so, Aaron Glenn, we saw Zadarius Smith have a sack on the first possession. They're so banged up on defense, not just Hutchinson. They're down 13 guys on IR. Reeder got hurt in this game. McNeil got hurt in this game. So they were very thin up the middle on the defensive line. But I think attrition is starting to set in here, Pat. Yeah. And they missed their big star. And I'm just nervous that if it comes down to it, and because of their injuries, they've got to play these high-scoring, one-score games against good teams. They're liable to lose one of them because I think they're turning into a team with a game like this where I feel like the best way for them or the only way for them to win might be just to outscore people, which was what they were last year because their defense was so bad.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that, but at the same time, that's just like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're winning close ball games, and you can say at some point them winning those close ball games is going to bite them in the butt if they're playing
about them.
Yeah, if they're playing a high power offense or a team, a quality team in general, they're going to have fits trying to win that ball game. So, not saying they can't win that ball game because they showed us that they can win a ball game in any shape, form, or fashion. But what I'm saying is, by them continuing, I know we're talking about switching subjects here, switching teams, but if you're saying that about Detroit, you got to feel the same way about Kansas City.
And I do. As far as Green Bay goes, if I'm a Packers fan, it sucks that you got swept by the Lions, and it basically means now that you're not going to win the NFC North and you've got to start the playoffs on the road again. I feel good about my team. Love has eliminated in the last 3 games those stupid boneheaded plays that we were killing him for. Mm-hmm. He's doing the same thing he did last year, Pat, which is he plays recklessly in the first half of the season, and then like a light bulb. Yeah, man. And then a light bulb goes on, and their offensive identity is really not just him anymore. It's Josh Jacobs has come on like gangbusters. The dude has 10 touchdowns in his last, I think, 3 games. He's been an absolute monster for him, averaging over 5 yards per carry. So they've married the two things. They've got Love playing efficient football, and they've got the run game that they had when Love was hurt with Malik Willis in there, and that makes them a very dangerous team. If I'm Detroit, I think I'll beat them if I play them again, but I wouldn't want to see Green Bay for a third time. It's going to be hard to beat them 3 times if it does happen.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to beat a team twice, better yet 3 times, So I think it will be tough for the Detroit Lions to beat Green Bay a third time if that matchup was to happen. But yeah, Jordan Love has seemed like one of those guys. It seemed like it's starting to become a trend. He started off a little shaky early on in the season. As the season progresses, he started to catch fire and play his best football when his team need him. But this looked like a resemblance of last year of this team in totality.
I agree.
They're starting to win games late in the year, and it's going to be if they end up sneaking in the playoffs, this could be a team that you may not want to play in the first round.
Yeah, we got Philly and Detroit at the top of the standings here, and I think Green Bay could give either one of those teams a tough game. We saw Green Bay do that in Week 1 against Philly. All right, let's get to the Week 14 schedule. We'll start with the Sunday night game. It's the Chargers and Chiefs. Kansas City can basically wrap up the AFC West if they can beat LA and sweep them. Mahomes this week came out and said, Pat, the close games the Chiefs are playing keep them motivated. He said the year they lost the Super Bowl, they won too many blowouts, and that's why Tampa Bay beat them. He says the close games are better for them in the long run. Does that make sense to you?
I can see where he's coming from, but the way that they're winning the ball games, like the block kicks, the quarterback missing the snap when they was in position to possibly win the game. God knows what could have happened. even if they had an opportunity to attempt that field goal. It's just the way that they're winning these games, in my opinion. I agree with him. Close ball games keep you motivated. It just depends on how you win these ball games. I can understand if you're going down winning, like for an example, when I was in Minnesota, when we was winning ball games, the other games were close, but we were going out there and taking the game. We wasn't hoping for the elements or a call or anything like that to fall our way in order for us to win the ball game. We was, Kurt was putting up winning drives. I was getting fourth quarter interceptions. Defense was coming up with Za'Davious Smith coming up with sacks. Danielle Hunter, big time, coming up with big time sacks. So there was a difference. And I feel like the way the Kansas City Chiefs are winning their ball games, I won't necessarily say that it's luck.
That's what I was going to say.
The ball just so happened to fall their way.
They are on pace for the same thing as last year. Their point differential right now, I think, is plus 54. That means at the end of the year, if it keeps on that trend, they'll be plus 77, which is not high for a Super Bowl winner, but that's exactly what they were last year. They were a team that saved their best football for January.
Yeah.
And I think where Mahomes is coming from is this. If you're blowing teams out, you just assume maybe you're overconfident. You just assume that you're going to win, and maybe you take a team lightly because of that, and they surprise you, and you can't recover, and you lose a game. So I do think it keeps you hungry because you go back in Monday after you win, and there's things you need to correct and get better at. Right. And the coach isn't BSing you. He's not bullshitting. He's not making it up to just try to knock you down a peg. It's actually real. Like they've got a lot of things they need to correct. They actually remind me, if they do end up winning, it reminds me of those Giants teams with Eli Manning.
Yeah.
Where they weren't very good. They weren't very good in the regular season. Then they just got, got unbelievably hot, and he played great football once they got in. I also think that it speaks to the fact, Pat, I think you know this. His dad was a Major League Baseball player. He was a pitcher. Mm-hmm. And I think that in that sport especially, there's an idea there that, like, in September, you don't want to clinch a division with a month and 25 games left and have a champagne shower on September 5th and then have to play 20 meaningless games because you lose your edge for the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We've seen that happen a lot in that sport. Right. And so I think it's Mahomes' dad wearing off on him too. That this keeps them engaged, having to win these close games. I don't personally buy it. I mean, I'm not going to write them off because of who they are, and I do think it's possible they flip the switch, but they are by no means my Super Bowl favorite, even though they've won the last two because of how they've played this year.
Yeah. But again, you can't put anything past Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid, because they've been there, done that, and like you said in your statement, that they tend to save their best football, for late in the year. And that can be possibly so. But like I said, the way they have been winning games, it hasn't been like they've been going out, Patrick putting together a winning drive. You maybe had, a field goal, a game-winning field goal here and there, and overtime here and there. But for the majority part of their wins, their close wins, have been by mistakes by the other team.
The other team screwing up, exactly.
Exactly. So that's how I feel it's been going. But like I said, you can't put nothing past Kansas City Chiefs. All right, moving on. We got the Bills and the Rams. Buffalo brings back Hyde for defense insurance. What is Buffalo's biggest weakness?
This is an easy one for me. It's run defense. Baltimore put up 271 against them. They're very thin inside.
Mm-hmm.
And a
Man,
team
you
like
took the words right out of my mouth.
Did I really?
Yep.
They exploited that. I actually think if that 49ers game wasn't played in a blizzard and was played in regular conditions, that might have turned into a problem for them because San Francisco was actually running the ball well before the McCaffrey thing happened. The Eagles and Lions would give them a hard time, man. If that's your Super Bowl matchup, if it's that Eagles O-line and Saquon Barkley, or if it's the Lions with their offensive line with Gibbs and Montgomery, I think the Bills might get blown out by those teams. Yeah. Now, conversely, that's why I think the Chiefs are a better matchup. because especially with Pacheco not being around and they've had to lean more on the pass and they haven't been a consistent run team this year, I think that's a game where Buffalo feels right at home in a situation like that. I think the finesse teams are better matchups for them. So that's the issue, man. 4.9 yards per carry is a lot for a good team to give up. Coaches stress all the time, you got to stop the run to win. Well, they're in the driver's seat right now because they've got the tiebreaker on Kansas City, Pat, and they've got, in my opinion, a major Achilles heel.
Yeah. Man, I mean, we might as well move on to the next question because that's literally what I was going to say. Buffalo Bills interior is a little undersized. Teams, good teams are able to run down the teeth of their defense if they have a credible running back. And now I know everybody don't have a Derrick Henry or a Christian McCaffrey, but
see, I'm getting on your level here. I'm coming with shit that you're like, damn, as a non-player, you actually know what you're talking about. That actually is a huge ego boost for me, Pat.
No doubt. I'm telling you, man, everything that you said, I was going to say it. So,
Browns Steelers. We'll go to my team, my game. Mike Tomlin shines on Hard Knocks in season. It was all about him last week. He's getting universal praise for his performance in that show. Is he the NFL Coach of the Year?
NFL Coach of the Year. He's top three. As of right now, my NFL Coach of the Year will probably have to go. It'll have to be even Kevin O'Connell or Sean Payton.
Well, I'll break the tie for you then, because my answer is Sean Payton.
Yeah.
Bo Nix was the 6th quarterback off the board.
Yeah.
5 guys went before him. They traded Jerry Jeudy for a 5th and 6th round pick. That's a big weapon. Look at his stats and what he did on Monday night going back there. They've got the 3rd best defense in the NFL by points allowed. They were 27th last year. They gave up 70 points in a game.
Yeah.
And now they're 3rd in the league. They haven't had a defensively Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper. Just do ball knowers know who those guys are, you and me. Does the casual fan know who those dudes are? They've combined for 20 sacks.
Yeah.
One guy was a 7th round pick in Cooper. And this is another quirky stat with them, Pat. They don't have a 100-yard rusher the entire year.
I know.
In fact,
I saw that last when they last game.
In fact, with Sean Payton, I don't think they've ever had a 100-yard rusher.
Wow.
So you don't have a consistent run game. You got a committee approach with Williams and Esteen from Notre Dame and McClellan there. And so you don't have this big horse you can just hand the ball off to. And the kid's playing great. The 90-plus yard touchdown pass he threw against the Browns is one of the best throws I've seen all year, Pat.
That was a rope.
Dude, he threw that thing almost 50 yards, and it was like he handed the ball off and put it in the guy's chest.
Yeah, that was an amazing throw.
It's like, that Shaq meme where he says, I wasn't familiar with your game.
Right.
I didn't know Bo Nix had that.
Me either. Because we never seen that from him in college. I know, at least I haven't.
So I'm going to go with Sean Payton right now, but Mike's doing a hell of a job. That being said, Mike, if you lose at home to the Browns, all the nice things I've said about you on this podcast and on my radio show, I take back all of it. You can't get swept by the Browns. You can't lose 2 games to that poverty franchise.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But he's just showing the world what I've been, what I had an opportunity to see, last year and what so many players have been saying, that ever ran or crossed paths across Coach Tomlin. Like he's just the best, man. Just the way he's able to speak to guys, motivate guys, keep them engaged in the game. Like that one prime example when George Pickens got the when he thought he got PI'd on the first drive and an interception, they took it back to the crib. He said, "Man, this ain't going to define the game. You gonna have another opportunity." You know what I mean? And I'll be doggone the two drives later, George Pickens go trotting in the end zone for a touchdown. So just the way he's able to communicate with men and really help them understand, the real outcome of their hard work, what it can be, is unbelievable. So guys are willing to run through the wall for him, man.
I knew he was going to love you because I feel like you guys are actually wired very similarly.
I'm telling you, man. I wish you could. If you ever have a conversation with Coach Tomlin, I told him that so many times, bro. Just being around, I was like, man, just the way you think about the game, the way you carry yourself in the building. I was like, man, it just reminded me so much of myself from afar, looking,
Yeah.
from the outside looking in. You know what I mean? Moving on, we got Bengals Cowboys. Dak said he want McCarthy to be back as their head coach. Should his opinion matter?
No. Even though he's making $60 million a year, it should not matter.
Yeah.
Because if you wanted Mike McCarthy back, Dak, you should have played better in big games. Okay? You got down 27-0 to Green Bay last year. If you want Mike McCarthy to be your coach, don't lose that game at home. Don't start the year before your injury with 11 touchdowns and 8 interceptions and get boat raced by teams like the Saints and Ravens in your own stadium. Yeah. They're 1-3 in the playoffs together over the last 3 years, McCarthy and Dak. If you're the highest paid quarterback in the league or the highest paid player, you got to do better than that. You're underachieving. So yeah, coaching change has to happen. My big thing with jobs is, do you leave the place better than you found it? Jason Garrett maxed out in the divisional round and went there 3 times. McCarthy's only gone there twice. So Dak obviously does have cachet and does carry weight, Pat, but he ain't Tom Brady.
Nope.
Okay. He ain't Aaron Rodgers. And so maybe those guys would get who they wanted and would get their way. But in my opinion, Dak Prescott does not have that kind of clout to keep a coach there because they have a good relationship.
Yeah, I don't think his opinion is going to matter, just because the state that the team is in, and we all know Jerry. Jerry wants to win, and they haven't won, sad to say, in a while. But he wants to win.
Pat, does he want to win, or does he just want to make money and generate pub?
Well,
and get
I guess that's a good
attention?
question. That's a very good question. I mean, he talks about and act like he wants to win. That's the only thing I can go by. You know what I mean? But that opinion is not going to matter. Like I said, just due to the state this team is in. Like you said, Mike McCarthy is 1-3 in the playoffs. Jerry appears that he wants to win and be on the big stage once again with his Dallas Cowboys. So I think it is going to be a coaching change next year. Don't know who the coach is going to be, and that's going to be the tricky part as well on trying to get, because I do believe Mike McCarthy is a solid, good head coach. Call good plays, manage the game very well. He's just somehow getting the bad end of this stick with Dallas. But who are you going to bring in? Are you going to bring in another credible head coach? What other credible head coach, in my opinion? Well, I guess you got, Vrabel is the only one I can think of right now that's on the couch. And I know you're probably not going to trade for a head coach.
I got a crazy one for you.
Who?
And it's not Belichick. I got a crazy one for you.
Who?
How about Pete Carroll? And here's why I say that. Because I think
that's not a bad name to drop at all.
Here's why I say that. Because I think Pete would be comfortable just coaching. I don't think Pete is going to Pete is not going to be completely left out of the roster building process, but I don't think he wants to do all that work. I think he just wants to be the leader of men that he is and has been for a long time. And I think to get back into coaching with a glamour franchise like that, I think he'd jump at an opportunity like that.
I mean, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that name drop at all.
You know what? Go spread it. Go do your other national stuff, and you can have that one. You don't even have to credit me. Just start throwing that out there, Pat. Let's just get that out there. Okay, man? Let's just let's get that rumor started.
Gotcha.
Falcons and Vikings is the Kirk Cousins Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Are you surprised Minnesota is winning this divorce?
Not really.
No.
Not really, because with Kirk coming off the Achilles injury, being the age that he is, there was always question marks if he was going to come back and be the player that he once was. Going into a new system, trying to learn different terminology, get the timing down with his new teammates. On top of that, coming off of rehab, You know what I mean? So I thought that it would be an uphill climb for Kirk this season, and it's starting to look like it is. But no, I'm not surprised at all. Because last year, if you go back to watching the Minnesota Vikings last year, although I know they did not have Kirk because he got hurt at the end of the last year. They just started to play better
They had
football.
Josh Dobbs and they had
Yes. Who else they had?
Nick Mullins in there.
Yeah, Nick Mullins. And you just watch that team towards the latter part of the year. The defense started playing better. Offense was able to move the ball up and down the field a little bit better. So it wasn't, in my opinion, it really didn't matter who was going to be their quarterback. Coach Kevin was going to find a way to orchestrate, good enough offense to put points on the board. So like I said, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle with Kirk coming off that injury. And just the way Minnesota ended the year last year, I just knew they was going to come into this season with some motivation. And I didn't know that, obviously, none of us knew that, their rookie quarterback was going to get hurt. And none of us really expect Sam Darnold to play as good as he is. But that's probably credit to Coach Kevin O'Connell being the quarterback whisperer, that title he's starting to get across the league.
I thought that Kirk Cousins was just roll right into that division and win it like Brady did when he got to Tampa, because Carolina, New Orleans, and Tampa would just be that bad. That's why I thought he was going to win the divorce, because with the weapons they had on offense, I thought that it was just almost too good or too big to fail.
Yeah.
And it looked that way until it didn't. The last 3 games, the guy's got no touchdowns and 6 interceptions.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts in the last 2 games has 1 catch for 9 yards. How is that possible?
I know.
That guy's a huge.
Huge
and so
target.
I generally think in life, Pat, you get what you pay for.
Mhm.
Buy a Lamborghini and I buy a Honda Civic. Something tells me your car's going to do a little bit better than mine. They paid $1 million for Kirk Cousins, and the Vikings paid $10 million for Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
So Atlanta should be winning the divorce. They're not. And I didn't think Minnesota would finish in last, but I thought in a division with Detroit and Green Bay, they were not going to be in this position where they're a playoff lock and they still have a tiny chance to actually catch Detroit and win the division. And that gets back to why you had Kevin O'Connell tied with Sean Payton for coach of the year there.
100%. All right, moving on. We got the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. Who do you trust more in this game? Geno Smith or Kyler Murray?
Okay. You know the answer to this question. I'm saying Geno.
Me too.
And I ran some of the numbers on this. Kyler Murray, his November and December record in his career.
Have I been saying this all year?
11-22. He loses 2 out of every 3 games played this time of year. His passer rating in December is 84.9. That's terrible. He's thrown 18 December interceptions. That's more than any other month. This is when the guy, I hate to say it, but this is when he melts down. And I got to see him pull himself back up by his bootstraps. I've got to see it before I predict it. So I've seen Geno rally and get a team into the playoffs. A couple of years ago, we did that with Seattle, and that's why that Detroit-Green Bay game for Aaron Rodgers didn't matter for Detroit, because Seattle clinched a playoff spot that night.
Yep.
Kyler's, even though he's at home, this game's in the desert, Pat, I think the Cardinals are going into it with the lesser of the 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah. I've been talking about this all year, not wanting to see this. And it hasn't really happened just yet. We saw that game. Well, actually, it did. They lost the last 2 games because they lost Seattle, then they came back and lost.
And he had bad interceptions late in both games too.
Yeah,
and one
this
was
is
a pick
something
6
that
against Seattle.
Right. This is something I've been talking about and did not want to see, because that has been the trend of Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. When it gets in November, December football, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the weather catching up with them. That the ball maybe too big now for his hand. I don't know what the case is, but it just seemed like they just always seem to fall off the cliff towards this time of the year. So who I trust more in this game is going to be Geno Smith. Because like you said, Geno Smith is a guy who rallied his team to get in the playoff, that late push to get into the playoff last year to become the 7th seed. I love his ability to throw the football. They're going to be in a controlled environment, so I expect the Seattle Seahawks to be throwing the ball all over, at least attempting to throw the ball all over the yard. And yeah, I just feel like right now the Seattle Seahawks are playing with that confidence and that swagger that they played with at the beginning of the season. And Seattle has always been one of those teams that Arizona just seemed to never really can get over the hump with. So I'm going with Geno Smith, who I trust more in this game as well.
For the record, I've actually come all the way around to your way of thinking. I think the Rams are going to end up winning this division when it's all said and done. So I just want to let the record show that you have been saying that for a month. And hopefully by me getting on the bandwagon, I don't jump what was a very good prediction by you, I thought, a while back. Dolphins and Jets. Aaron Rodgers says the final 5 games of the season shouldn't determine his NFL future. Is he right?
No, I mean, I don't feel like it should. But it probably is just because just the way things have been going with the season, the way he, in my opinion, the way he has been carrying himself and his teammates in the media. It's just a lot of things I feel like another organization is not willing to put up with. Although we all know what Aaron Rodgers was, because over the last 2 years, we haven't seen that. But that's all they're pretty much going to be banking on the history of Aaron Rodgers. You know, what he was able to do back in, 19, 18, and 20 in the arm power, but he don't have the escapability that he once had. And I don't know if it's just him freshly coming off the injury. It just still seems like I won't necessarily say not trusting his arm, or not his arm, but trusting his movement. But he don't look like the Aaron Rodgers that we all was accustomed of looking at. But then again, it may need a change of scenery. Maybe the Big Apple. I'm not saying that the media was too much. He may have too much to do in the Big Apple with the media, which is something that I feel that he thrives off of. But maybe he do need a change of scenery to where he can just really focus and hone in on football and really, enjoy this last bit of time that he have left with the game. Because we don't want to see Aaron Rodgers go out like that. I know I don't.
Well, I got to be honest with you, though. The way he's comported himself and how egotistical he's come off, I don't really have much sympathy for him finishing his career like this. I mean, it sucks when an all-time great really drags themselves to the finish line, but he's not really come across as the most likable individual over the last couple of years. I don't think this documentary series he's doing helps with him getting another job either, because the preview makes him look like a complete whack job. He's going down to the Amazon and he's getting he's hanging out with tribes and he's screaming at the top of his lungs and he's getting face paint and all this stuff. I mean, it's just bizarre behavior from him. But if you just stick to the football, Pat, I try to put it in black and white terms. He's 41 years old. There have only been, in the history of the NFL, 2 quarterbacks at that age who have taken their teams to the playoffs. Tom Brady. No, not at 41. He did it at 39 and 40, but not 41. Tom Brady and Drew Brees are the only 2. And
what year that was with Drew Brees? His last one. Oh, it was last year. Okay.
When they lost to Tampa.
Okay.
And Tampa went on to win the Super Bowl. He was 41 years old.
That was COVID year.
Yep, COVID year.
Yeah.
And he did it with Sean Payton, a coach he had known forever, and on a team that had made him a Hall of Famer. And Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yep.
Rodgers is going to try to do it with his third team if he gets that opportunity. The odds are so severely stacked against him, and he's coming off a terrible year. So I don't see who in their right mind would commit $40, $50 million to this guy to play quarterback next year. I don't see a market for him.
Yeah, it's just going to be, especially now with the quarterback needy teams, they're going to be able to draft a guy. We all know Aaron. If he goes somewhere, he wants to be the starter. He's expected to be the starter throughout the year.
He doesn't want to compete for a job.
That's what I'm saying. And most quarterback needy teams are going to draft a quarterback in this upcoming draft. So I don't see if he's not back with the Jets, I don't know where he could be. Possibly Tennessee maybe.
They'd be out of their gourds to do that. They would be nuts to do that. I'd rather go out there and bring Sam Darnold in or somebody like that next year if push came to shove. Seriously.
It seemed like him and the head coach would get along.
Oh yeah, they're both nutcases.
We got the Bears and the 49ers. Rumors out there that the San Francisco 49ers could trade Kyle Shanahan. Is that smart?
Yes. Okay.
What?
So let me talk you through this here. I know you just lost your mind there for a second. All right. So think about this idea. John Gruden got traded from the Raiders to the Bucs for 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think it would make complete sense for the Bears to do this because you'd pair Kyle Shanahan with Caleb Williams. You'd have a coach that's elevated the play of quarterbacks like Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo, give him a rookie who we've seen make plays here late in the season. Here's why I like it for San Francisco. They've got to get younger. They've got to start to move on to the next phase here with the veteran players that they have. And if I'm John Lynch, let me put it to you this way. If I'm John Lynch, the GM there, if I could get 2 firsts and 2 seconds and then hire Aaron Glenn to be my head coach, I'm not any worse off, in my opinion. Or Ben Johnson in Detroit. Kyle Shanahan, what has he done? I mean, he's gone to Super Bowls and he's blown.
He's won.
Yes, not the whole thing though.
No, he hasn't, but he's been there twice, and he's a winner.
So you think this is crazy talk?
Yes,
is what it sounds like. Yes,
very crazy talk. Because if you San Francisco 49ers, right? I won't say America's team, but for the most part, a lot of Americans like the 49ers, and they're going to always be a team that competes. Yep. So if you go out there and trade, if you go out and trade Kyle Shanahan, who you going to go out and get? We just talked about, you said you got to get younger, right? Pete Carroll, I don't see him taking that job.
I just gave you the 2 Detroit guys. You don't like those names?
Not saying I don't like those names, but those are assistants. Like so you're telling me that those assistant coaches are better than Kyle Shanahan. Like if you're trading them, if you're trading your head coach, you must have a plan B or somebody else that's better, or at least on the same level of him. So why would you go out and get an assistant where you're going to be possibly taking a major step back now? Because the assistant never been a head coach.
Let me ask you this question: what is their future with Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy for the next 5 to 6 years?
Well, who's to say that Brock Purdy is their future?
I think they do. Everything they say makes us think that they're actually going to do it, that they're actually going to give him the contract.
Brock Purdy, he's going to get good money, but it's going to be like one of those Colin Kaepernick deals. Like, it's going to look pretty, but they're going to find a way. They're going to make it to where they can get themselves out of that deal. Watch.
Okay. I mean, if Trevor Lawrence and guys like that get deals where there's no safety valve and they're getting all that guaranteed money, I just feel like Purdy's going to try to push the envelope with them.
He's going to try. He's damn sure going to try, but I'm telling you, it's going to be like a Colin Kaepernick deal. Like, it's going to be nice money, but it's going to be to where it's not going to be a ton of dead money hitting on a team if they decide to cut their losses.
Panthers and Eagles. Are you buying Saquon for MVP hype?
Yeah, he's a legitimate MVP candidate. A legitimate MVP candidate because he has not only turned this Philadelphia Eagles team to a Super Bowl contender. Not saying that he wasn't not a Super Bowl contender before, but just the way he's running the ball, it just seemed like he can march them right on to the Superdome and right out of there with the Lombardi. Just the way he's catching fire towards the end of this season. So in the style that he's doing it in, the teams he's doing it against, in the stage that he's doing it on. So he deserved every bit of the MVP hype. I hope he continue to run the ball as violent and as efficient and as beautiful as he has been, because he has been doing stuff this year that we haven't seen in a long time from a running back. And quite frankly, we saw something this year that we have never seen any football athlete do, which is backwards hurdle over someone. So this is a magnificent athlete. This guy's just super explosive. Had the opportunity to go up against him a couple of times, and he's one of a kind back, because he's stout, but he also have those cat-like reflexes. So, yes, Saquon, man, you deserve all the MVP hype, man, and I hope you end up being in the top 3, so we can see you at the NFL honors.
I think he should win it right now. He would be my pick, and I'll lay out the case for him. When Adrian Peterson did it, he rushed for over 2,000 yards, and he averaged 6 yards a carry. Barkley is going to get there, and he might even do it in 16 games, not 17, and he's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. So he's been even more explosive and efficient than Adrian Peterson was when he did 2,000 back in 2012 and was the last running back to win the award. The reason why I would pick him over Josh Allen is simple. Josh Allen has done one thing way better for him than he's done since he's come into the league, and that's take care of the football. Exactly. He's cut his interceptions down.
Yep.
But if you're going to be the MVP, I need more playmaking than you throw the ball to Amari Cooper and he pitches it back to you for a touchdown. When Mahomes won the MVP, he threw 50 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
When he won the MVP again, he threw 41. Josh Allen this year, Pat, is on pace for 28 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's not like he runs the ball fine, but it ain't like he's Lamar Jackson going for 1,000 rushing yards on the side, or Jalen Hurts running for 15 rushing touchdowns or something like that.
And
he's having a
he's not having the best year, but I want you to look up this stat. If you notice, how many 300-yard games Josh Allen has this year?
Spencer, look that up for us. How many 300-yard games does he have?
I know a lot of quarterbacks in the league don't have them, but I'm just curious about that because I know
that with you. I'm going to say he's 1.
Wow. Yeah, I give it a Saquon right now as well too. And if that's the case, it got to be between Saquon and Lamar. Then Josh Allen got to be 3rd. If you're looking at
think
the numbers.
About this, like to me, a lot of it usually comes down to this too. Does your team finish with the best record? Well, what if the Chiefs finish with the number 1 seed? You're going to give it to Josh Allen. He didn't do anything historic. Barkley's doing shit that we haven't seen in a long ass time, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they might as well just rename the award the quarterback award if they give it to Allen over Barkley at this point.
But I don't think Allen's going to win it. I know he's in the conversation, but
Spence says they gave Lamar a lot of shit last year for not putting up big numbers. But I said this on the podcast. When they beat the 49ers on Christmas and blew them out, and that put the Ravens in a spot to be the number 1 seed, and they went head-to-head against the other conference's best team, it passed the MVP from Purdy right to Lamar Jackson. I don't see – now Detroit's going to play Buffalo. Maybe that game will determine who wins the MVP this year. If Josh Allen goes out there and has a 300-yard game and 4 touchdowns and they beat the Lions. If he does that, then I'll change my mind. Exactly. But right now I'm saying give it to Saquon.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Saquon as the MVP favorite as of right now as well. All right, we're moving on. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans. Lawrence is out for the season. Was a 3-game suspension enough for that hit?
Yes. I think it was. Now, it's very interesting. I can't wait to hear your perspective, Pat, because I feel like players are super divided on this. I mean, I heard Tom Brady go on Cowherd Show and basically blame Trevor Lawrence for it, which I was just
I was
baffled
shocked.
by.
Yeah,
You were shocked by that too?
I was.
I was stunned that he said that and put the onus back on the quarterback for it. This is the first player suspension for something that happened on the field since Myles Garrett ripped off Mason Rudolph's helmet and beat him over the head with it. That's how long it's been. They fined guys. They've not suspended a player.
I thought they suspended your boy last year from Kareem Jackson from the Broncos.
You know what? I think you're right. Okay,
he got suspended twice.
Yeah, Wikipedia, update your shit because I'm going off of you here, and that was the last one.
I got you, Pony.
I want to thank Pat for fact checking me on that. The bottom line, though, is that it does not happen that often.
It don't.
And there's an initiative to protect quarterbacks. It's just they're talking about late slide on this play, and I don't know, the way that I saw him use his elbow makes me think that his point was to take the guy's head off. And it wasn't just his initial, like he saw Trevor Lawrence as a runner and he was just, this is the way he was going to tackle him on the play before he elected to start to go down. I don't know. You've played an NFL game where the bullets are flying pretty fast, Pat. I thought it was a pretty premeditated move by him on that hit.
Yeah, the move looked very, very vicious and devastating, and you could just tell that Azeez had it on his mind when he saw Trevor Lawrence break that pocket. I know the game is played at a fast pace, but you can see the quarterback clearly going to a sliding position. Like me and Brian had this conversation on our podcast. I feel like Azeez had enough time to at least, because like you said, he came in with his forearm for one. He was already, coming in like a spirit missile, right? And he was coming with his forearm. So now unless he had his eyes closed. So now once he realized that Trevor is sliding, I feel like he had enough time to at least like glide or dive over him or slide on the top of his body to kind of make lessen the blow, if that makes sense. So it definitely was a bad hit. I'm not saying it was a dirty play because linebackers do play at one speed and their eyes light up when they see the quarterback break the pocket. But he got to understand the quarterbacks that he is going up against as well, because like I've never seen Trevor Lawrence, at least from my perspective in the games that I've watched him play, I never really seen him try to lower his shoulder in open field, especially with a one-on-one tackle. For the most
He's
part,
not Daniel Jones or Josh Allen.
Exactly, and that was my point. So you just got to understand when certain quarterbacks break the pocket. Yeah, some of them might try to lower their shoulder, but 9 times out of 10, majority of them are going to try to slide. So I thought the 3-game suspension was a little much. I thought he should have got 1 game being a first-time offender. But, the league, they're trying to really crack down on player safety and really really want guys to understand, like, we're not tolerating this, so make better decisions, I guess.
Any thoughts on the last 2 games here? Saints, Giants, and Raiders, Bucks.
Saints, Giants. Saints should win that game easily. The Giants are going to continue the rest of the season. You got Bucks and the Raiders. Bucks should win that game as well, coming off a big win. Who they played last week?
Carolina. They eked it out.
Yeah. They squeezed out of Carolina last week, and I don't see them squeezing out of this game against the Raiders. So I got the Bucks winning that game, and like I said, I got the Saints winning that game as well. Because who the Saints played last week?
Saints played the Rams and they blew that lead in New Orleans.
They should have won that game as well. But the Saints have been playing some good football as of late since the firing of Dennis Allen. So hopefully they can keep that going. They're not going to the playoffs, but I love the fire, the passion, and the energy that they're continuing to play with. That's a team that you can tell that is still engaged in the game planning and still just want to win and fight for their brothers. So and their head coach, so it's good to see the Saints continuing to compete at this stage of the season. So that's all I got.
I'm going to put Brian Dable on
the hot
pink
seat
slip watch here, and I'm going to say if they lose this game, I think there's a chance he doesn't coach another game for the Giants. They've lost 8 in a row. They have no home wins this year. The Saints interim coach, Rizzi, is from New Jersey. He grew up like 10 miles away from the stadium. He's a former special teams coach who talked about taking a crap and clogging a toilet this year. If that guy goes in there and lights up the Giants, that proud franchise is going to be so embarrassed by that that I could see them firing Brian Dable and not letting him coach out the string. And then the only thing I'll say about the Raiders and Bucks is Brock Bowers is having a monster year, and he's not getting enough credit for it. The dude might look like an insurance salesman who's balding at the age of 23, but he is for real. He leads the NFL in catches, and he's 4th in receiving yards. Total stud.
So is that your new rookie of the year, or you still got Bo?
No, still think it's between Daniels and Bo Nix.
So tell me this, since we talked about MVP of the quarterbacks, why Brock should not be, I guess, worthy enough of winning the rookie of the year if he's 4th in the league in yards and he's number 1 in reception?
Oh, he is. He's definitely up there for me. It's just weird.
But I'm saying though, why isn't he when he's ranked higher? Well, I guess he's not. Well, I guess he is. He's probably ranked higher in the big league categories. I'm not talking about against rookies. In the big league category, he's ranked probably higher in most categories.
It's because I put more stock in the fact that a first-year quarterback can take teams that weren't any good and get them all the way to the playoffs.
I got you.
So I have to acknowledge with Bauer's numbers that a lot of it has to do too with the fact that they're playing from behind in a lot of games and Devontae's not there and somebody's got to catch those balls. I'm not going to denigrate the stats and say they're all empty calorie numbers because he's going up against pros. He's going up against dudes making millions of dollars. He's not playing against scrubs.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, I'm a little bit more impressed by what Nix has done to make the Broncos a playoff team, and Daniels has completely changed the whole identity of the Commanders organization. I mean, they were a laughingstock team before he got there. So it's a great year for that award. I mean, you've got multiple guys who I think in other years would have won the award going away.
Right.
But it's a great question by you. So are you saying you take Bowers then?
No, I was just asking because we were just talking about the quarterback, situation, and now there's 2 quarterbacks, and we haven't talked about any other player besides up for the rookie of the year besides those 2 players. And I forgot the year that Brock was having because they put up his stats when that was Friday when they played the Chiefs. I was like, boy, he is having a very, very quiet year that nobody's talking about.
And Spencer just put something else out there that's nuts. If he catches 33 more balls, he's going to set the record by catches for tight ends in a season.
So that's what it's 5 more games. He need to average 6 catches?
A little bit more than 6 catches. Yeah.
7. Yeah.
Yeah. If he averages 7 a game, he'll get there.
Yeah. He averaged 6. Yeah. 6 or 7. Yeah. Ooh.
Now,
it is possible.
If he sets the record for most catches by a tight end in the history of the sport, then I think he's got to get the award. I think he does, dude. Right? If he actually does something that Gronkowski, I know it's 17 games, but yeah, I mean that would be a hell of a that would be a hell of a conversation. Well, Nakua last year had huge numbers like that and didn't.
Because who won it last year?
What's his face? quarterback. What's wrong with me? Why is my CJ Stroud?
Oh yeah. CJ Stroud won it last year. Yep.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud.
All right, Pat. Listen, guys, subscribe, rate, review if you like the podcast. We'd love for you to listen again, which is really good, but it's even better if you subscribe. We'll be back Sunday after the Chiefs and Chargers game. He's Patrick Peterson. I'm Andrew Fillipponi. Spencer Ray's our producer. Thanks for listening to First and Pod.